Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Baggage Claim, a Journey Through Mental Illness. I'm Katrina.
I'm Julia, and this is a show about living with mental health in today's society. Tonight, we have a special episode where it's a part two, our first part two episode of entertainment and media, money, and mental health, right?
That's
Sorry,
it.
I messed that up, guys. Okay.
No, that's it.
And I'm Mel, and we're here every Tuesday at 8 Eastern, and we would like to remind you guys that we are not mental health professionals. We are mental health patients. So if you do feel the need to step away, if you're feeling triggered, or you feel as though you need to reach out to somebody, we have the information right in our bio there, or our About section. So please reach out to somebody.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mel. And thank you guys for joining us today. Let's finish up our discussion on media, money, and mental health. I'm going to kind of just really fast go over the money side again a little bit. I did share last week, and bear with us here. I got to load this in, so bear with me. I got to share screen.
Inside baseball.
Sorry, guys. Did that work? Okay. So I shared this graph last time, and it just goes over, like what a copay is and what that means to the insurance company, and kind of goes down the list. What I really wanted to start out with is that 1 in 5 adults in the U.S. experience a mental health problem in any given year, and less than half of them receive treatment for that. That's a lot of people if you think about it. And most of the time they're not receiving treatment because they can't afford it. I think you guys would all agree that your mental health care is pretty expensive.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I get, real quick here is that I reach into the tax deduction level of medical, and a lot, I would say probably 75 to 80% of it is mental illness related. It's not all my other stuff. It's because therapy and supplemental and medication, time traveled. See, people don't take into account. I mean, it's been great the last several months. That's one of the sort of silver linings, I guess, we've had, is that they finally have had to sort of have telemedicine with us. Mm-hmm. And that saves money and time. That's going to be huge for us this year. I mean, I have like the ability to have a few $100 more savings around when I don't have to be pumping out. And then I can't drive. So my husband can't take time off work. I either have to use some form of public transportation if there's any near me, or I have to ask my 68-year-old mother-in-law to drive me around, and she has her own things that she needs to be taken care of. So they don't make it easy, and that's expensive.
No, absolutely. And I think, 46 million adults suffer from a form of mental illness, yet only 42% of them receive any service of any kind. And really what we were talking about is, and I think there's so many articles on this, so I'm not going to, try to even bring them all up. But, money problems compound mental illness or mental health problems. Just being in debt can cause you to have depression, anxiety. So, things in society today and in our system make it difficult to not have a problem with money and mental illness. What do you guys think?
Oh, can you repeat the question?
Well, I guess I'm just like for example, I've had to go without getting prescriptions before because I couldn't afford it. Right. And I think that's normal. That's typical. And I would say, people without insurance who have to pay an a huge amount in fees. So do you guys have any examples of where, we know this is a problem in society, but do you have any personal examples?
Yeah, I mean, there's one medication that I wouldn't be able to take if it wasn't for getting samples from my psychiatrist. It would be thousands of dollars a month otherwise. And I know you had a similar experience recently, Katrina, and that one was able to work itself out finally. But for a while, you were forced to take samples as well, which isn't the worst thing. But you never know, like you said, when they're going to run out of samples, if something happens like a pandemic and they're not getting as many samples, then all of a sudden you're out of your drug and there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
So
or your state decides to regulate things like that, because there are states out there that have some interest in a purview, but they don't want to blame the real issues. So what they do is they kind of they make us the victim of their bad policies at that level. So what ends up happening is that well, I'd give you samples, but now they're punishing doctors who give out samples, which I have had experience with in states before, in localities. So, I mean, we have a situation right now, even in Michigan, where my psychiatrist, I have to call him. I only have to meet with him this is the doctor that prescribes my drugs, not my talk therapist, because you can't have both. And he makes me call in every other month now. I can see him every 2 months, but I need to call in every month to get my prescription re-up, because the way my state is going after drug companies is by making it so that they can't give me 60-day quantities of specific drugs. And they just sort of they pick a class of drugs that one of the bad ones is in. And if your drug just gets lumped in with that, so now I used to be able to get 60 and 90-day supplies of my drugs, which was cheaper by my insurance company. But because my state is doing this ridiculous nonsense, my doctor can't write me 60 or 90-day prescriptions now. So it's ultimately costing me more money, because I have to pay for the drug every other month, where I could have paid for it every 3 months all at once. And the pharmaceutical, the insurance companies give you a discount the more you buy, because of course, duh. So,
and I mean,
me from doing.
The first thing that actually comes to my mind, I hate to say this, is have you ever thought about wanting to travel somewhere for an extended period of time, and that feeling of I can't do that because I have to pick up a prescription every 30 days. For some reason that crosses my mind all the time. I know that's not really related, but
I have experience.
It's like being tethered by something.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I have experience with this. When I went to Ireland in 2016, we went for a little over a month, just about a month, and I went in on an off time. So what I did was I went to my PCP and I was like, "Can you help?" And she's like, "Okay, here's what I'm going to do." And she wrote me a letter so that I could get in and out of the country, she wrote me a full letter with my laundry list of pills so that I could bring it through TSA, so that they wouldn't confiscate my drugs, because that was one I was
you have for sure.
It was they're going to steal they're going to take all my drugs, and I'm on the way into a new country and I won't have my seizure meds and my psych meds and all this stuff. So, and then I talked to my neurologist, who told me to, how to take my meds properly because of the time change. And then I had to get letters and stuff.
Which is such a concern. That's actually a bigger deal than, I just want to point that out.
It was easier for me to get my passport ultimately than it was for me to get my medical situation in line to go in and out of it. And that's an easy country. I mean, we're happy to, visit back and forth to each other. It's one of the easiest customs experiences I've ever had fundamentally, but it's this no, it is. It's something you carry with you, because you have to worry about your medical state too the whole time.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, there's been times when, my husband and I have talked about working abroad for several months. I mean, this was years ago, but, traveling around, you can work, virtually. I don't think that could never be possible. Anyway, there are some things that you can do to help yourself if you don't have the necessary funds to get help for mental illness, for mental health. And I'm going to just go through them really fast. I just have a list right here. It's from clearhealthcosts.com, I'm going to be totally transparent with you guys. And so what you can do is there's sliding scales. So almost all therapists, psychiatrists, anything like that offer sliding scales for patients who are paying out of pocket. And this is true. I think when I was in college, for some reason, didn't have insurance through my dad at some point, or my house at some point, and didn't have it through college, and I had to pay out of pocket, and I negotiated a rate, right? Like you can do that. Request flexible scheduling. So while many patient book weekly sessions with their therapists or psychiatrists, those paying out of pocket may prefer to reduce costs by scheduling sessions on alternating weeks. So I don't know if I understand that one fully. Do you, Mo?
I think I'm down to once a month where I see my talk therapist. And I know that some of the ways that they reduce costs is to do, like, someone who might need 3 weeks a month goes every other week. So instead of week by week by week, that it sort of spreads it out where you're like on a week, off a week, on a week, off a week. And I know when I first started, that was a reality where I had to go 2 weeks a month was smart for me when I was first getting into treatment. And there were all kinds of supplemental things. But my acupuncturist, he did negotiate Medicare costs for, like, on a sliding scale for my treatments there. So that is worth asking. Because some places won't suggest it. Ask.
You always, like when Dennis was on, just ask the right questions always. Be prepared. Be prepared.
Not just questions, the right questions.
The right questions. Be direct about what you can pay. I think that's true. Like many therapists or psychiatrists will try to help. Like if they can help, they will do it. Some can't because they're in a hospital setting and, you know, it's not private, you know. Anyway, there's ways to kind of look around. Look into employee assistance programs, inquire about a payment plan, and ask for referral. So, you know, and especially look for community groups in your area. You would be surprised how many there are. I know a great organization. I think it's national. Is it NAMI? NAMI,
National Alliance of Mental Illness.
And I think they do a really good job of just having resources and things available. So that's definitely an organization I would recommend. Go online and do research. Like I think that's, you know, number one too. Also, many. The last one is many pharmacies offer their own type of insurance. So like even Walgreens, major pharmacies like that offer a type of insurance that helps you with your medications and things like that. And that's it, guys.
CBS has that too.
Yeah.
I would, if you have that in your region.
Yay, Katrina. Thank you for walking us through that.
You're welcome. I hope that.
I think we all I think it was good though, because you brought up a lot. There's a lot of considerations for the money. It's not just as simple as some of the stuff that we do when we're having a crisis, but also the things that surround it.
Yeah, and also that healthcare in this country is tied to a job. And if you suffer from a mental illness, that can be really debilitating. To say, oh, I have to hold on to a job to like get the necessary care and needs that I need met. That's just personal, I guess, experience as well. But
no, I think that's true.
Yeah,
and I think that if you're someone who ends up with a disability situation, it's not as if you can just go work when you want to or need to in a job that makes sense. They limit you to a very small. So it's like if I wanted to go get a job that was meaningful to me and filled in some of the gaps between what my husband brings in and what I used to bring in before I was disabled, they would punish me. I have to get it off the list of what they think is an okay job and how many hours I should work and how many things. So there's no consideration made for how long it would take me to get there. All of it. It would cost me money to try and get a job through the disability program in this country per going to doing sort of what I do in terms of volunteering. So I could get a job that helped my mental health.
and helped others.
Right. but
Yeah.
it doesn't make enough to offset the other income that I have to have in my life and the health insurance. So it's kind of, it's almost cruel, because it's essentially saying that you're, you here you are, your mental health is this, we've agreed with you that your mental health is debilitating. But if you feel even the remotest bit of like going out and bettering yourself, don't even think about it, because you have to fit this paradigm of how what we consider disabled and what that looks like, and sort of that the imagery, the ableism. I mean, I hate to put it out there, but
I mean, beyond that too, it's like, if you look at like what we'll call Obamacare, it's not cheap. If you have a mental illness and you need a certain copay, you need your prescriptions to be under a certain amount, you need to see the doctors that you want to see. It is not cheap. Okay, like there is no cheap plan.
Yeah, no, not for mental illness. You have to. It's a certain tier for mental illness.
Exactly. So,
anyway, yes.
Yeah, tangents. But girls, what do you have for me?
All right,
bring it in.
Should we talk about advertising and mental health?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, in recent times, social media has come under fire for its negative impact on mental health. But what about advertising and mental health? Don't all the shiny, happy people wreck our self-esteem? Don't we come away feeling either consciously or subconsciously like we're not quite good enough, not rich enough, not successful enough, not beautiful enough? Where does that leave us? It leaves us in a place where if you're me, you feel inadequate, unworthy, and unlovable. Is that something either of you relate to?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, all the time.
And I don't like that it makes others like that. That makes me mad. It makes me mad at advertising, that it makes anybody feel like, it makes me mad when it happens to me. It makes me mad when it happens to someone I care about. I don't want my friends feeling inadequate any more than I want to feel inadequate. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want
the human collective.
Because I don't know what's going to make you feel inadequate, and you don't know what's going to make me feel inadequate. So it's like they put this like complication between people that doesn't need to be there by doing that. No. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, it's so, no, I think it's so funny because the first thing that would go to my head is like, oh my God, the image of people, right? Like how a woman looks or what's portrayed. But that's like not even, I don't think, touching the surface of kind of what is bothering me about some things, right? Like, but that was my first thought, is a body image type thought, and not,
I think that's where we all first
another
go.
type thought. Yeah, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think we're very conditioned to jump to that as our, why don't you like advertising? Oh, it affects my body image, especially as women.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, for sure. That's drilled in your head since you're like a child, right? Yeah. That's crazy.
Well, first, let's take a step back and take a look at the history of advertising and mental health. You may be surprised to learn that Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, his nephew, changed the very nature of advertising. Before him,
Tell me more.
I will. Before him, companies advertised their products for their durability and quality. Freud, using psychological tools, he began portraying products as a means to improve your image. He famously even made smoking socially attractive to women, though it had been frowned upon up until that point, because he exploited women's aspirations for a better life. This is where advertising and mental health began to first collide. That's kind of mind-blowing,
isn't it? Of course it goes back to Freud in some way.
Of course, right?
And capitalism.
And capitalism. Like all about image, for sure. I mean, keeping up with the Joneses, let's say, like, yeah. What year was this? You know? Sorry, I'm just throwing that out there, by the way.
I don't know. I forget. I did read that, but I forget. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I think that, I mean, I'm totally talking out of my beehole, but I think it's the 50s, because I recently, I will link it because it's a YouTube it's a documentary that's available widely on YouTube, and it talks about stuff like this, and it references Freud's nephew. It was one of the he is an insidious propaganda master of all time, and it's interesting how they take this language from advertising for you looking awesome and doing all these things. They also use it to rally people to do things that they probably shouldn't do.
Exactly.
So it's how they misuse mental health.
It's kind of like cult leaders. Like they know how to like get into the minds. I'm sorry, Julia.
No, carry on.
This is good.
You're getting deep into the psyche.
Yeah.
Modern ads tell us that we're not attractive enough or smart enough, and that the product being sold has the answer to a better life. Let's take an ad for whitening toothpaste. Now, before the ad aired, I maybe have felt a tiny bit insecure about my teeth. But now, after seeing the ad countless times, I'm utterly convinced that my teeth and me should not see the light of day. And that's just one ad. Imagine the impact of all the ads every day we see have on our health.
Yeah, I didn't think about it like that either. Because that's true.
Yeah, it's cumulative. It's a
like
cumulative
just
effect.
small
little doses all day long.
You know why this bugs me? It bugs me because of those stupid Instagram ads. Because they are targeting, and I'm sure Facebook and whatever, but they're targeting exactly, to the T of what I'm looking for, what I've looked up. Like, they get me every time, you guys. And
no one likes to feel... No one wants to feel like a mark. No one wants to feel like someone else can come in and from outside and get into their deepest desires. No one likes that feeling because it feels like being invaded in its own way. It's annoying.
I think we're.
Uh-oh.
Katrina.
Am I back?
Yeah, we're back.
Sorry, I was just on a tangent, but I think it's desensitized us.
It has,
and kids, it's like teenagers, and
and we're more aware of it because we've had the crossover of medias, some of us in our lives. But this will be like the young kids that we know in our lives that we're near every single day. They will have this in their lives their whole lives, and the only thing they will have to counter that message is hopefully their parents and the community around them saying that. No, that's an impossible ideal that's being literally sold to you. That's what that is. It's meant to make you think that you're inadequate. It's meant to make you feel like you're missing out on something. It goes back to last week, the fear of missing out.
And it's unattainable. The girl in the ad with the whitening toothpaste, she's had her teeth not only professionally whitened, but then they're going to be whitened by the editor working on the photos. Right.
But
it's not real.
It's not just the advertisers. It's the influencers who are editing all their photos all the time, or just anybody on Instagram. I'm back to Instagram, but anybody editing their photos and putting on this false image of who they are is essentially a walking advertisement for what you want to be. You could be anything you want because you'll find it.
Right, and the algorithms are smart enough now that they have this old thing that Freud's nephew did. They have that information, plus they have the algorithm to and they have the Zuckerbergs of the world going, well, it's just data. It's just data. It's okay. It's just data. It's fine. It's data. It's no, it's dangerous.
A lot of people have difficulty accepting the idea that ads are manipulative because they don't want to accept the fact that they're not in control of all their own choices. What do you guys think about that?
That's 100% true.
I know that I'm not in control of all my choices. I know. I'm still manipulated every day.
It makes me uncomfortable. And that's true, but I know that I'm human. I don't like that it's being weaponized. That's the thing I don't.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
And it's dangerous. No wonder that advertising affects our mental health. Advertisers have the keys to our psyche. There are these psychological principles called neuromarketing used in ads that entice people to buy. These can be used to influence people to purchase out of FOMO, using high-pressure tactics to induce anxiety until a purchase is made. We saw a video on FOMO last week, if you guys remember.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah.
And with the importance of digital ads, everyone is now competing globally, and advertisers are extra aggressive for fear of not being seen.
So it's like,
needless to say, all this can exacerbate mental health issues. Depression and not being able to measure up. We may be depressed at not being able to measure up to the unattainable ideals and imagery we're being shown. We may have anxiety at those high pressure tactics, lowered impulse control, low self-esteem, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But is it the brand's role to consider how their messaging may negatively impact our mental health? What do you guys think?
I mean, to be honest, we live in a capitalist society. Like, they're not going to do that. They're going to choose not to do that. If they do, good for them. But, like, I don't know. I don't have any faith now. I just feel broken.
A company doesn't become a company to consider ethics. A company becomes a company to get profit. It is I started an entity that's whole purpose is to make profit. If I can find a way to maximize profit, I will use it. So in a vacuum, without any oversight, without all of us having a say in what goes on in our daily lives, no company is going to be like, I should really consider how it makes those ladies feel when I reach into their social media profiles and sell them shit. Like, but they're not going to do that because there's no money in that.
No one wants to leave any money on the table.
There's no money in that. And until we as a group go, no, we don't want to be manipulated like that anymore, and then demand from the people that would be leading us, if they were, that, you need to tell them no. Like, we're not going to get that. There will always be that disconnect because, of course, they're going to use whatever they can, especially, now more than ever. It's probably worse than ever, and you probably feel like it is, because everybody's desperate for money right now. And nobody knows what the economy is going to look like going forward. And that is horrible for mental illness and is going to make you more likely to absorb that message from advertisers or whatever, too. So it's Yeah, and then it gets expensive, and around we go.
I'll say, like, where my mind first went is like body image again, and there are lingerie companies that are showing a woman's natural body. Okay, like people, I guess they think they're doing things. Is it? I don't know. I feel like we're gonna be manipulated no matter what. In some way.
We're definitely not going to come out the winner, that's for sure.
No, not when you're playing.
Not when we're playing against the house.
Not on their terms.
Yeah,
no. We need to, that's something that that's why we talk about it openly and start calling it out, though. That's the whole point of, like, when we say destigmatize, we're not just saying, like, talking about bipolar or PTSD or anything in between. We're talking about all the things that surround why it's like that. Because now more than ever, when you have this many people realizing they have mental illness and that there's things to be done for that, and there's nothing out there that's being done for that, we all sort of have to go. We kind of need to take, Dennis's plan one step further together and be like, hey, we want everyone to be taken care of. That includes mental health, like, and making it reasonable.
And it should be noted that, like, saying that you have a mental health problem is a very hard thing, right? It's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to reach out and get help. That might be the hardest part, but it can get better and it can be worth it. I try to say this because, it took me 10 years to be diagnosed correctly. It took me 12 years to get on the right medication. But I have no regrets. Like, I would go through that again to get where I am now. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So just don't stop. Like, you got to keep.
Yeah, don't give up.
Going. Yeah.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
When you were talking about that, Mel, about how we have to pull those people with us, it always makes me think of, like on a show like Friends or something like that, when some of the cast got offered $1 million episode contracts, and not all the cast did, and they, like, refused to work until those people were offered $1 million contracts as well. I always think of that, like we have to like pull everyone through with us to get health insurance. No man left behind, no woman left behind.
Absolutely.
And if you want an even nerdier like version than Julia just said, Robert Downey Jr. totally was like, well, you can pay the rest of the Avengers like you pay me, or I'll just take Iron Man with me because you all know that I'm the greatest Iron Man ever and you're not going to make any more movies without me. So he did the exact same thing for them. And that's why we all know and love those guys. Mm-hmm. So nerdy reference to crisscross with the Friends reference.
Well, if you add on to all that stuff we've been talking about, the fact that advertisements aren't for the average person with a small amount of spending cash, like you and us, they're for people who are wealthy. And so the problem is that we're all seeing the same ads, but we can't actually all afford the same purchases. But we still want that lifestyle depicted. So it's being sown in us this desire to have this lifestyle for something that's, again, unattainable, that we can't actually have without going into severe debt. Also, buying products is often a coping skill for those with anxiety to lessen their worry in the short term. Mm-hmm. So when people begin to buy to feel better or to achieve a lifestyle, it becomes a vicious cycle as debt begins to accumulate and the desire to still have those things builds. So it's a very dark circle. One of the reasons our debt persists is because we're constantly receiving messages to buy more and more things we can't buy. Does that prey on you guys?
Yeah, I mean.
Sorry, I was agreeing. I was looking at Joseph here, who's got a great comment here, is it does take a community. And yes, a
lot of social change.
The only reason... I mean, I aspired, what am I trying to say? Here, let me try and untangle my tongue there. And what I'm getting at here is that, I'm human and I definitely get caught up in like, look at how great that person's life is. I mean, because it's your instinct, especially when you're feeling bad, when you're having depression, when you're feeling anxious, to look on there and be like, these people are getting through this way better than me. And what's wrong with me? And maybe I should just get out there and not live in fear. And then it's like, don't be silly. Don't worry about it, but it'll work out. But if there's an ad that's going to like waltz up to, I mean, they throw these like really cool hoodies at me sometimes. And I'm like, no, you can't crisscross a hoodie with a mage cloak and have me be like, and it feels like an invasion because they just went in there and did that thing where it's like, how'd you get right inside? And it's not cool, man. It's just not cool. That's not how we should be treating each other.
Even if I want it, it's not cool. Like get it out of there.
Right. And it's tough times right now. And they know that people are struggling and some people haven't seen a check in months. Like some people are without healthcare and without money and all these things. And yet, but you need this dress though. And it's like, no, stop that. You cut that out until you pay your fair share.
Yeah. And if you think you can just avoid commercials, it's not that simple. Commercials are everywhere now. Like video games are a huge place for advertisements, which are targeting kids and teens a lot. My background is in film partnerships, which often start with product placement. So like if you look at a movie like The Fast and the Furious, or any of the Fast and Furious franchise, and the Dodge vehicles that are in those films, that was a product placement that became a film partnership. So it ended up with, first you see the movies in the film, and then there's a commercial that spins out of that. But, we all want that aspirational lifestyle that we're seeing on screen. And it's not just hitting us, when we're seeing 30-second ads on cable television anymore, because no one's watching cable television anymore. Right. So they found other places to infiltrate. And we are being advertised to all the time.
They have to do that. I mean, I'm a sports watcher, so they do jam, a million ads between plays, but more than that, it's plastered on the field. It's in the name of the auditorium. It's getting darn close to being on people's, actually, what am I saying? Uniforms. are sponsored by Nike, or they're sponsored by, or, this, particular athlete goes out in the, or this team has all Nike gear.
Our soccer team is sponsored by Orlando Health.
Right. Sure. Oh, isn't that nice for them?
Isn't that nice?
That's lovely. Yeah. I'm a big fan of, I love, funny. But it's interesting to watch how they have, I wish they worked this hard at like anything else, right? But they work this hard at advertising to us. They're like, okay, so everybody left cable. So where can we go now? So we sit on the YouTube, we're the 15-second ad before your YouTube video, or we're on the, ring post, or on the uniforms, or on the banner outside. And we can't live up to it. And they make us feel bad, even though we were never meant to live up to it. And you can't help it. And also it's because, doesn't that life look nice? It's so much prettier than what's happening every day right in front of us. Absolutely. It looks beautiful. Don't we
deserve that life?
Well, you do deserve it.
You've been good this year, Mel. You deserve it.
No. I have to bring up Joseph's comment, and it's cracking me up because my husband talks about this movie a lot. I've never seen it though, Joseph. With all the manipulations with advertising, etc., does it make anyone think of the older movie They Live?
I love They Live. Joseph, Joseph and me. Yes. Yeah. I came here to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble gum. And that's all you girls need to know. What's great about that, and there's even a wrestler in that one, Katrina. It's awesome.
Of course there is.
Of course there is. And but what's funny about that is that basically the entire point is that one of the characters gets the other guy to put on these goggles, and through the goggles he sees what these aliens are doing to manipulate society. Put the glasses on. I know they're glasses. Whoa. Oh my God, this is amazing. Thank you for the They Live reference, Joseph. That's a quality reference, no matter where you are. But it's true. And that's a great one for if you're interested. And there's a fantastic fight in that.
It's probably a good October movie, too.
It's an excellent October movie. There's a fantastic fight scene between the two main characters in it, Katrina. It's unmissable, really. You really should check it out.
I'm being called out. I guess I
have to see it, Katrina.
Oh man, obey.
I know what happens. But I don't remember seeing it.
It's all right. We don't.
I'm gonna get.
No.
I remember.
It's all right. You're good.
Okay.
We're not all meant to like the same thing. That's why we can break the cycle of the manipulative advertising situation.
There you go. You know what I think's worse now is the social media. I'm gonna say it again. Is this social media advertising, because people use it all the time. I think, I do, and it's always it's there. It's always there.
Yeah, and they have so much data on us that they can really target our likes and dislikes very specifically.
Yeah, and everybody has their chosen social media. It's you can't forget we're on it right now. YouTube is a form of social media, though. Totally. It is. And so it's, but we got to keep calling it out. That's the best.
But I use it for true crime. Yeah. I love true crime on YouTube. Just so you guys know.
It's true.
This is very off topic. Okay.
She's a true crime.
Joseph, yeah. Exactly.
Well, some ads target our logic, some ads target our emotions. Can you guys guess which ones are more effective?
Wait, what was the first one?
Some ads target our logic and some ads target our emotions. Can you guess which are more effective?
Please.
Oh, it's got to be emotion.
Emotion.
By far, the most effective ads are the ones that make us feel something. And the challenge for us is that we don't choose our emotions. We can't sit there in any given moment and be like, I'm just going to not feel sad when I see this commercial. It's going to make us feel something in spite of our thinking. It happens subconsciously. And our feelings influence our thinking way more than our thinking influences our feelings. Do you guys agree with that?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, try to 100%. Think yourself out of feeling a certain way. It's pretty damn hard to do.
Yeah.
So for marginalized groups, advertising can be particularly harmful. For LGBTQ people, for instance, who don't fit into society's traditional idea of masculine and feminine, depicted in many of today's ads, watching ads can lead to depression, low self-esteem, and shame for not being the cultural stereotype.
Right.
A new study has actually found that advertising makes us measurably more unhappy. The higher our country's ad spend, the less satisfied its citizens are.
Huh.
I don't know. I'm pretty satisfied. I mean, I'm going to say I'm pretty satisfied. It's probably not like, have it, you know, am I spending a little bit too much money? Yeah. Am I doing things I shouldn't do? Yeah. But like, for having to be stuck at home, it's pretty satisfying.
That's good. I'm happy for you.
I hate to say that, but
don't hate to say that. That's a good thing.
No, it is a good thing. It's a good thing to acknowledge that that's the truth. The only time that it's like we should all be feeling that. So we need to get in a scenario where everyone can feel satisfied by what they're doing. So some of us, I mean, but you also just admitted a little while ago that like the reason that you're in the space that you're in is because of all the hard work that you've done with all of the other things in your life that complicate things. So because you've been in therapy and because you've done your mental health and your wellness, you know what I'm saying? Is like, of course, it's okay to be nice to yourself. It's doing it to the detriment of your life that is, and the life of the, you know, the people
right.
that
you don't want to hold your life hostage.
Yeah.
Well, you're right.
You should be able to enjoy your life. That should be a goal of everybody is to be able to enjoy this life. It's the only one you get. But if you're constantly being told you're not good enough or this filter will make you better or whatever else,
you're constantly going into debt, thousands of dollars of debt.
I just want to bring this up because this is true. The ads that listen to your conversation using your phone mic should make anyone feel paranoid and anxious, very unethical. I 100% agree with that. That's creepy AF.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Why do they need that? Why do they need permission for everything?
The fact that we know it's happening too, because you'll say something and then you'll go on your phone and next thing you know, it's right there.
There's an ad for that.
Well, let's be serious. It's a trope. I mean,
Kyla had said, or not.
Go ahead.
Where was it? Oh. Social media ads are the worst. I said I had cramps last month, and the next ad was Midol. See, exactly.
I know. God, that's so invasive.
Right?
I mean, it's bad enough, like all of us should feel invaded by that. But then there's like an extra level, I think, for women in this particular regard. And I'm not trying to segment or do anything like that. But I think that in the way that there's others that can, or anyone who's been abused or manipulated by anybody else emotionally or physically, like that can trigger that. And I don't think I'm not, as a human, I'm not okay with that feeling for myself or other humans, because it's our minds. You're invading my mind. Like that is pretty messed up. I mean, that's like the next level from physical sort of thing. I mean, it's really fucking gross. Sorry.
It's getting in your personal space.
I don't mind. And we should be able to use this stuff without feeling like we're being dissected. Because I think that I don't think it's unreasonable for human beings to ask that the thing that they socialize on now, because that's where tech has gone, that we ask that there's some sort of like morality to that there's humanity to the way that we interact, and that we don't allow advertisers to just willy-nilly sort of manipulate ourselves or our neighbors because, hey, those people are poor or rich or brown or white or lady or man or whatever. I just don't think that should be okay with anybody. And that they're manipulating, knowing full well that 1 in 5 adults is going to suffer from depression, and taking that and using it for that sort of, again, weaponize what I can't, that's the word that keeps, it's like they're weaponizing our emotions against us and our neighbors, like each other.
I just want to, I think this is an important point. I don't know. I rationalize and think myself enough feelings all the time. I would agree with that. I think that's what I've learned through therapy and being in treatment, CBT and things like that. Like, yeah, those are things, that's something you can learn, and that's something you can definitely do, or not learn, you know.
But it's harder to do than
for sure.
emoting yourself into thinking something.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. Good conversation. I love it.
There's this other principle of advertising. I forget what it's called. I think automatic conditioning, maybe, where you set up a product that's being sold nearby, adjacent to all these other things that we already love, and like a baby or a rainbow or anything that's really likable like that, and then if you keep playing that ad for people with those juxtaposition of imagery, they will associate the product with those positive attributes that they feel for those things. It's just like a transfer of the positive feelings. And so then instead of what?
Sorry, keep going. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. So instead of and then for instance, they would test people, and like there'd be pens. They were selling pens, and they would say to people, okay, these pens are better quality pens than these pens. But then they would have people watch this commercial with all these positive imagery aligned with these bad pens, and they would have people do a questionnaire afterwards and say, which pen would you buy? And 80% of the people would buy the less quality pen because they now attribute it with these positive characteristics of these things. Even though they would tell the people, remember to pick the one with the best quality and use your own judgment and use the one with the best quality, they still would pick the other pen. So that's how deeply embedded in our psyche these advertisements get.
Which is exactly the explanation for why Budweiser is the most popular beer in America for such a long time. Because they put pretty things next to it for decades. I mean,
yeah.
No offense, anyone. Total offense. No, it does work. Look at the kitten. Put it next to the pill or the car. Yeah. It's cars. I mean, it's luxury items are the worst, I think, because those are the things that people, especially, I mean, you see some of these luxury ads right now for cars or pretty things, especially right now, and they are pouring it on with like, it'll practically cure you of the plague, it's like, wow, okay, I guess. So, oh no, I'm next. Oh my, I'm positive advertising myself.
So cute.
We're gonna want to buy you, Mel. We're gonna want to buy you.
I need an OnlyFans immediately. No, that was
so. Basically, the bottom line is, if we want to do something positive for our mental health, first we need to take a step back, remind ourselves that these advertisements are not real. What's being portrayed is fake. Second, we have to remember that advertisers only have one motive. Seriously, they want to drive sales, and they don't care how their ad leaves us feeling in our mental health.
Right.
And lastly, we can vote with our wallets. And one sure way to bring about change in today's consumer advertising culture is to use our power as consumers. Oh, and I just found this anecdotally interesting. Okay, pick one: mental health or work in advertising.
Work in advertising.
You can't. You apparently can't have both. You can't have both because while ad agencies are busy affecting all of our psyches, their employees are notoriously afflicted with mental health issues, sometimes at 20% times the national average, which is a huge number.
I have a friend, and I'll keep this as ambiguous as ever because I don't have his permission, but I have a friend in advertising, and given what I have discussed with him in the past, I would absolutely agree that is true. Just based on like some of the research that advertising personnel have to do for their clientele, depending on what the company represents or the brand represents. And they don't offer, I mean, just even some of these stories that are out there about Facebook employees or Twitter employees, the people who have to screen essentially, because this is not all done by computers, despite what people think. Mm-hmm. There is still a human element of scanning that needs to go on with social media where it needs to be vetted. Otherwise, a lot more horrible crap would make it to the mainstream. And that has to be done with human eyes. These people are not being offered mental health care. They're not being offered medical health care at large. And they're suffering things like post-traumatic stress, suicide. It's bad. Like, we have a whole contingent of human beings who are out there sort of curating the digital space so that it's not too messy for all the rest of us, but they don't have a proper infrastructure in place for their mental health and well-being. And nobody's holding the feet of the social media companies to the fire saying, you need to make sure that the stuff that humans are doing is, because it's not pretty out there. And I think we all know that. I mean, we can all, we can hang out in our space, the internet, but I think anybody with a thinking brain knows that there's a lot of yuck out there, and somebody's got to make sure that the really, really awful stuff doesn't come to the top and end up on your kid's Facebook feed in the morning. I mean, the internet's big.
Yeah, I think just the hours being worked and the type of abusive personalities that can be involved. A lot of tough personalities involved in crazy hours, and the deadlines, the schedules, I think can really contribute to mental health issues. But I just found it interesting anecdotally, because it's like we're all being afflicted by these people, but they're actually afflicted themselves. And I don't know if that's karma or what that is.
Maybe it's just not meant to be. Maybe that's the grander scheme of the universe being like, you should not do that. That's not cool. That's pretty inhumane.
Yeah.
Wow, we're getting like kind of deep into capitalism right there.
Whatever.
But it's, I mean, yeah, I don't know.
It helps shape our our mental health is predicated on it. I mean, you said it early on with the job thing, but we don't have a choice. Like, if we had a choice, I think some of us would choose not to. But since we don't have a choice, that's what we have to talk about.
There's some like important conversations happening in the comments a little bit. I do want to
definitely
bring it up.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think there's some good points and some I would disagree with. But I've come to believe Americans tend to struggle with things that are unnecessary. I would say we do. And so do a lot of other places. So there are definitely places that's not how life is. I've worked in Nicaragua. I've worked in Africa. Just like Europe on Tubil. Sorry. He said, he's seen people go to bed every night not knowing where their next meal will come from. Yes. That's why it's really, really fucking tough, excuse my language, to live in the world that we live in. Right? It's not perfect. In my eyes, anyway.
I think that we have to make a more equitable world for everyone so that nobody is having to struggle with those things. I think that capitalism, it hasn't just hurt America. I think it's hurt so many places. And I think that the sort of pushing of capitalism as a value and not as a structure is where you start to run. It's like it's become another emotional system that's not it doesn't exist within us. It exists without us, but controls us. And that I don't think our brains are structured to have that level of control on us. And I think because it hurts so many people, so many places, and so many is that it's, if the thing is making you sick, you need to cure the thing that's making you sick, not a bunch of the things around it in the case of something like capitalism, buying all the pretty things they say will make us feel better. Or in the case of something larger, we just can't. We have to fix it. We have to make a more equitable world so that we all don't,
this is a good plug for Common Club. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. Go ahead. Just that we're just trying to do something better and bring a community together to do it together, and to have equal share and stake in that. Yeah,
I'm glad that we have some international watchers. That's pretty cool. Or people
that is pretty cool. I'm not
around.
Gonna lie.
That's awesome. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We're really
I'd love to know. If you're in another country and you have mental health issues or know some statistics you want to talk about, please share them and let us know.
I think that some of the infrastructures are different in some of the euro, and because you have, I mean, let's be real, like most of the euro has socialized medicine. Oh, I said the words. Oh dear. But they do, which means that, and there's the idea that private insurance goes away in those countries is silly because it doesn't. Like they still buy private insurance plans too in the euro because they need supplemental plans. The same as like if you're on Medicare. Medicare doesn't cover prescription drugs. It doesn't cover diagnostic tests for like larger things. So it doesn't cover MRIs. It doesn't cover extensive labs. It doesn't cover CT scans. So you need to go get a supplemental private insurance plan. Like even Medicare, as much as Medicare is the answer, it's only the beginning of the answer. Because even if everybody got Medicare tomorrow, you would still only have the first couple parts, which covers if you go to the hospital or if you need immediate care immediately. But I mean, if you wanted prescription drugs covered, you need to buy a supplemental insurance plan. Now, it's a reasonable price versus thousands of dollars out of pocket because it's negotiated with the government, and the government sets a reasonable price by which they will purchase these plans. And so then it, instead of being, $1,000 a month, maybe it's $100 a month. But think about all the money you save in those two figures over the course of a year. And that's it. But it's like it's private insurance wouldn't disappear if we did government healthcare, but it would sure make everybody's life a little bit easier to live, hence making our mental well-being a little bit better because we aren't stressing about how do I pay for my $1,800 medication next week. That is stressful. It's an added stress that our system has out there for us that shouldn't exist. So, I don't know. In my opinion,
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I don't know.
Well, we've come to the end of advertising mental health.
Wonderful. Thank you, Julia.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That was spectacular.
What a killer discussion we just had. Thanks, everybody.
So we were, Mel, I'm just going to steal the light for just a second.
Do it.
We were going to go into some commercials and talk about commercials and what they look like and what their messaging is. I kind of just want to do one commercial.
All right.
Are you guys okay with that?
You want to do The Rock, right? We've been talking about this rolling, and that's okay. I put them all there. It's listed there for you.
So the reason there's this commercial that I think I grew up with. Like it was literally the first commercial I think I remember, the first mental health commercial I ever saw, and it's always stuck with me. I don't even know why. But do you guys have any feelings about that? Or should I just show it?
No, do the one that you want to, because we can do a quick outro. We can close out on this real quick, and
I'm just gonna share it. And if we get I don't know if we're gonna get copyright, whatever. So we'll find out.
Yeah, and that. I'm parched.
Oh my gosh, now I can't remember what the name of it. Hold on.
So
it's on the list.
Thank you.
It even says the one with The Rock.
I know, but I don't have it labeled that way.
That's okay. Live production. We love it. 7 years there. Wow. That's a lot of places. Europe's been a lot of places. That sounds
I know.
Fun. Here we go. Okay.
Hi.
Uh-oh. Oh, no sound. Oh, bummer. I don't hear the sound from it, but that's okay.
No, me neither.
It's still, I'm sure a lot of people must remember this because I knew it immediately.
No, I messed up the screen share. Hold on.
We will get this rock out there. She's been talking about it for weeks.
I'm so sorry. That's my bad. Okay. Share out.
You may feel exhausted, hopeless, and anxious. Whatever you do, you feel lonely and don't enjoy the things you once loved. Things just don't feel like they used to. These are some symptoms of depression, a serious medical condition affecting over 20 million Americans. While the cause is unknown, depression may be related to an imbalance of natural chemicals between nerve cells in the brain. Prescription Zoloft works to correct this imbalance. You just shouldn't have to feel this way anymore. Only your doctor can diagnose depression. Zoloft is not for everyone. People taking MAOIs or Pimozide shouldn't take Zoloft. Side effects may include dry mouth, insomnia, sexual side effects, diarrhea, nausea, and sleepiness. Zoloft is not habit forming. Talk to your doctor about Zoloft, the #1 prescribed brand of its kind.
All right, ladies. Thank you for indulging me.
Sure.
Those side
Now that I
effects
watched
sound
that, like,
lovely.
why do I remember that commercial?
It's meant that way. It has that like little cartoony, and it probably hit you at just the right age. It was probably, I know
Yeah.
that they ran that commercial all the time.
All the time, and I was watching the soaps and stuff, you know?
It must have been, I bet you it ran with things that you watched a lot, is
I
why you
bet,
would remember
yeah.
it. Because that is what usually happens with those ads. I remember it too. It must have been the soaps, because Grandma in the Afternoon, always with the General Hospital. So
Yeah, I remember it too. But Mel, was there anything about that, like the techniques used, that we should pay attention to?
now, I think they did make it a little cute, didn't they? I mean, they sort of made it like seem like, and you don't have to feel this way. And
The sad rock.
look at the sad rock with the sad cloud over him. Poor Rock. He doesn't need to feel sad. I did a bunch of these. I have a list of these. We don't have to go through all of them, obviously. But I think what I found there were a couple of things that stuck out to me about the advertising for drugs, notwithstanding the stuff that everybody knows, which is, yes, the side effects are horrible of literally all of these. And I don't know what the purpose is of it. I mean, I do know it's their sort of way of pushing it off. But also, I think that one of the things that really, that's fine. One of the things that really stuck out to me were they never suggested, a lot of like the diabetes and heart medications are like when used with a diet and exercise. None of these mental illness drugs are like when used in a proper treatment plan of any kind. They're all like, take this pill and you'll feel better.
Meditation and yoga?
No, none of that. I know.
No therapy.
No therapy,
nothing.
no meditation, no diet, no talk to your therapist. It's always talk to your doctor about X thing. And they all
like
have,
most of those drugs you can't get unless you're at a psychiatrist. So
you
like,
have to be,
come
it
on.
has to be a psychiatric doctor or a neurological doctor involved in those, almost any of those.
Yeah.
No, it was, here's this magic pill, not here is something to supplement your health. And I think that, I mean, if you look at most of those, they're older or they've been around for a while. And now you're seeing what I saw online, which was there's now drugs to treat. So people have been taking these drugs for a long time are starting to have ill side effects from these drugs. So now there's a new class of drugs out to treat the side effects from the previous class of drugs. I'm like, this time seems like a self-defeating sort of cycle here.
Right.
Maybe we should think about an alternative. I mean, not alternative therapy, but maybe we should try and like, I don't know. There seems like there's got to be a better answer than this.
But we have a great episode on alternative therapies. Check it out.
You are so fun.
I mean, but it's true. Like there are things out there that are helping people.
That was a
that
good
aren't-
episode.
I mean, under a psychiatric, under drugs. I don't know.
Yeah, there's other
it out.
alternatives. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to only be one way.
And I'm not talking like hoity-toity. I'm like, they're like legit.
No, there are some that actually are valuable and viable options. And I think that if they work for you, whatever you can find out there that works for you, that's safe and healthy, those are the kinds of things we always recommend. If you like to meditate and do yoga and all that too. But, some of the stuff that Julia talked about can also take place within the psychiatric drug advertising. And one of the things that there were some things that Julia shared with us along the week where people who didn't have mental illness would watch these ads and then come out of it having a negative perspective about people with mental illness. And that has to be in the ad. That's got to be baked into the advertising somehow. something's appealing to the people who are sad, but something's also giving an adverse reaction to the people who don't want to maybe admit they're sad or don't like the stigma of mental illness. And I think that the same ethical conversation about pharmaceutical advertising has to be had as that we were having with, buy a car, buy a beer, buy a whatever that will make you feel better. Because
that will make your life complete.
Yeah, same people are working on that advertising too. So it's not like they're mutually exclusive.
Yeah, I would agree. Well, I think this is a great episode.
Yeah, great episode.
Part 2, I think we finished it up nicely. And I'm excited for next week. We'll be back with another episode of Baggage Claim.
Tuesday night, 8 p.m.
That's right.
We'll be here. We'll see you here.
Yes.
Good night,
everybody. Good night. Look both ways before you cross the street.